listening to the NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network, part of Sports Illustrated, giving you daily NFL Draft, Dynasty, and Devy Fantasy Football podcasts.
Class is in session. Welcome into the draft seminar presented by Sports Illustrated's NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the EFF educator, joined as always by my co-host, John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar. And John, as we kind of are nearing the end of our rookie profile series here, we still have plenty of videos left to do, but we've been taking requests, based off the comments on the YouTube videos, folks leaving us reviews on audio platforms or sending us DMs on Twitter. So Jonathan Adams, the focus of this episode, he came from that. So feel free to continue commenting and leaving players that you want to see us do here towards the end. And John, I know you're actually a little bit more excited about Jonathan Adams than me, so I'll let you go ahead and kick this one off.
I'm very glad that the Twitterverse voted for us to do a profile on Jonathan Adams. He's one of the young men I'm rooting for in this draft. And I do realize the odds are against him coming out of a group of 5 program. But if anyone can make it, I believe Jonathan Adams can overcome the odds, Matt. I've really enjoyed watching him play at Arkansas State. Go back to high school. He was only a 2-star recruit and but a 3-sport standout. Obviously played football. Was a big basketball player. As a senior, his team went 32-0. It won the state championship, and he was MVP in the game. So he's a very prolific basketball athlete. He was also a long and high jumper on the track and field team. And if you watched him in college at Arkansas State, see the track and field explosion when he high points the football. It is clearly there, and his hands do remind me of a rebounder in basketball. In order to understand this prospect, I think it's important to understand Arkansas State. They are from the Belt Conference. But their head coach, Blake Anderson, has put together one of the most prolific passing games in the nation over the last 4 or 5 years. And last year as a junior, experts who liked Omar Bayless and Kirk Merritt as prospects. Now, unfortunately, neither of them really came to fruition yet at the NFL level. But I think Jonathan Adams is the best of the 3. In 2019, he was 3rd team All Sun Belt, 62 receptions for 851 yards and 5 touchdowns, everyone. And that was with Merritt and Bayless on the team. Both of those young men left, and Jonathan Adams stepped into the alpha role in the Red Wolves' aerial assault. He was Sun Belt Conference Offensive Player of the Year this year. He was the Biletnikoff Award watch list. Matt, he just went off. 79 catches for 1,111 yards and 12 touchdowns, averaging 14.1 yards per catch. And I go back, I remember him early in this year. We got lucky because we saw a lot of teams early in the year we don't normally see. I had mentioned how much I watched BYU early in the year. Arkansas State was also one of those teams on television. And I watched him against Memphis because I'm a big American Athletic Conference fan. Then he played Kansas State. And I thought this was a very big statement game for the young man, going on the road against a Big 12 opponent. He was 8 receptions for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns in the victory. The Red Wolves upset Kansas State on the road. And then he played Coastal Carolina, everyone. And Coastal Carolina went undefeated. They were one of the darlings. They beat BYU. 6 receptions, 98 yards. Matt, look at some of these game-by-game yardage totals after that. 101, 177, 134, 94, 141, 138. He started well, but once he started to physically get ahead of the competition, he absolutely blew them out of the water, Matt. And he had his pro day recently. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. I do like the size. But his pro day illustrated that he is an NFL-level athlete. He's not a star. He didn't put together the Rondell Moore, Elijah Moore type of pro day. But he ran a 4.51, which is not bad for a 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver. That's competitive range for a wideout. 4.38 in the 20-yard shuttle and 7 seconds in the 3-cone drill. So he does have NFL-level agility, burst, and speed. I'm rooting for this young man. The odds are tough. But, Matt, what does your film study say?
Yeah, so with Adams, I think, his best quality comes with his contested catch ability. I give him an 83 there. I think he has solid handwork at the catch point. You could go up, and John, you were talking about the Kansas State game, a really good example. He goes up and he one-hand palms a catch over a Kansas State DB, and he's a red zone target. He could be an absolute monster, which is really where I think his fantasy football upside comes into play. Now, I think he's got good athleticism, not the most athletic guy. He's not going to break you in space. He's not overly twitchy, but he's got good vertical ability. He could go up and get the ball, and he has some good fluidity to his game given his size. Now, definitely not the fastest guy, but he's primarily playing along the boundary, and he can run in a straight line and accelerate and speed up downfield. And John, I think he's got really consistent hands. Some drops on tape, not a ton of drops though, and he puts his body in a good position consistently when going up for the catch. So his fantasy football projection for me, John, is a taxi squad stash. It's not my lowest projection. You could be a waiver wire warrior, which is my lowest projection. So I see the upside here. I understand why folks are getting excited about Adams. I'm not quite there, but I definitely see it because he's fun to watch on tape.
Oh, yeah.
So, John, let's flip on some of that tape. Let's have a little bit of fun here.
I can't wait, my friend.
All right, provided as always by Brandon Lejeune, Devy Deep Dive on YouTube and Twitter. And right off
the bat, that's not open there.
All right, and here against Tulsa, you're going to see a little bit more contested catch than that first one against Arkansas Pine Bluff. He holds on well through contact, John. He gets hit by 2 DBs. He holds on through that ball. And look at that red zone ability here against UNLV. He puts his body in a really good position. He makes this catch, John, because of his body positioning first and his nice hand second.
That was an NFL-level catch, Matt.
And look at that separation ability against Georgia State. Maybe a little bit of a push, but it's still a good catch.
And there, look, he immediately turns upfield. Boom.
And I think on this play here, this last one, John, you're seeing both his upside and his limitations because he makes a nice catch, and some faster guys in a straight line would have gotten a touchdown on that. He gets 20 yards. It's still a good play. It's not a phenomenal play, but look at his contested catch ability, and then he's going to cut a nice slant here against UL Monroe. So you're seeing some good versatility to his game.
Oh, absolutely. He did run a nice route tree because Arkansas State, with the quality of competition in the receiver room, he had to learn different positions to get on the field, my friend.
And you're seeing here, John, 2 examples of Georgia Southern absolutely defensive pass interference holding on to him, and he's able to still make the catch through that contact. That, for me, might be the most appealing thing in terms of his NFL translation.
Yes, I do like he does fight for the football, Matt, and he is a competitor when the ball's in the air.
And a nice play, again, really nice snag here against Florida International, showing that large catch radius. There's definitely a lot to get excited about with Jonathan Adams. There's that one-hander against Kansas State that I was talking about.
And here's a touchdown, isolated one-on-one. He just pinned that Kansas State cornerback, and he caught. I think that might have been the game winner. I forget. I think that might be the one, though. He was very impressive against Kansas State there, my friends.
He's fun to watch for sure. John, talk to me about his production profile.
You know, my model likes him. He hits a lot of my benchmarks. He's got the size, 166 career receptions. So you have kind of this duality. The 166 receptions are against Power 5 or Group of 5 teams. However, he had a pretty good locker room to compete with for targets. So it's kind of an interesting road he traveled, but 166 is very nice. 2,306 career yards. Yards per reception, he has flashes of home run, but he did get caught from behind. You don't see him separate in the open field like Tamarian Terry like we saw earlier tonight. 13.9 yards per reception, 21 career touchdowns. Look at his last season when he was the guy. 66% catch rate. And ladies and gentlemen, if you watch Arkansas State as much as I have, they were a nightmare for college fantasy football. They had a dual quarterbacks, and they rotated them. It was maddening. So he was catching passes. Literally, each quarterback would throw about 20 passes a game. So he had a 66% catch rate and team aerial dominator of 28%. He does have sticky hands. We saw some of that. He's very competitive. And he is an NFL athlete, not uber. He doesn't jump off at his pro day, but he does have the athleticism of an NFL athlete. Also, we have talked throughout this process, Matt, there's not a lot of boundary receivers. Jonathan Adams could be a nice backup as a boundary receiver in the NFL. I wish the young man the best. Let's see where the draft capital ends up for him.
There you have it, Jonathan Adams out of Arkansas State by request. So make sure to leave a comment here of these other players you want. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Draft Seminar presented by Sports Illustrated's NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. If you are watching, make sure you're subscribed if you are listening. And as